Hi everyone and what's up guys, and in this video yeah just go to jump into some basics in Unity, jump into the details about these game objects, how can we use it, which components can we attach on them and whatnot. But for that we are going there in hierarchy panel and just right click here and create 3D object, which is going to be quad. So now we create the game object which has the shape of quad. So there we see that he has some different components attached on them, and we see that he has these default components which is the transform. So the transform actually just to control the position, rotation and the scale of our game object, so we can move our game object along the x-axis, along the y-axis, and we cannot move along the z-axis actually, because we are in 2D space, in 2D platform, and the z-axis here is actually forward and backwards, and for that we must go in 3D platform if we want to test the z-axis. And for the rotation is the same thing, just a rotation, of course, rotate our game object on the x-axis, on the y-axis and on the z-axis. And I will put all of these three axes on the 0. And for the scale you can imagine, so we can resize our game object on the x, on the y, and on the z we cannot, because as I said we are in 2D platform. Moving on, we have the quad mesh filter, which is the simply mesh that helps our mesh renderer to this mesh renderer can render our game object on the screen. So that is whole philosophy. And we see that we have the mesh collider also. So we must first tell what is the colliders in Unity. So collider components define the shape of a game object for the purposes of physical collisions. And I will now remove this mesh collider, so just click this small button here and remove it, and go to the add component and add a box collider 2D. So just search for box collider 2D. So as I said, collider define the shape around our game object. So that shape is this small green line around our game object. So if we, for example, disable our collider on this checkbox here, we don't see anymore this green line, and when we enable it again, now we see the green line appear again. So this green line is actually our collider. So moving on, we are going to add one more component, which is the rigid body 2D. And in simply words, rigid body 2D control whole laws of physics of appropriate game object. So if we attach rigid body 2D on appropriate game object, that game object will be affected by whole laws of physics. So for example, if we now run the game, we see that our quad falling down. Why? Well, because as we said, rigid body control the physics of a game object, and that includes the gravity, of course. So I think this is in short about the basics in Unity and the basics about the game objects in general. So if you have some questions, please put that in comments and I will answer as quickly as I can. So again, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.